This video is sponsored by me, and my brother, 2clicksphilip, whose Nigel Books video deserves a lot more views. Check it out. And clicksphilip. If you've ever gotten an advert for one of my videos, it was probably his doing. And 4clicksphilip. Cache. Where is safe from the bomb blast, and where isn't? You might be surprised. In-game, the bomb is typically planted in the same few places most rounds, and you may be familiar with the blast radiuses from these spots. But the bomb sites often have other spots that you can also plant at. Some of these result in surprisingly different bomb blast zones, and may be worth using if for no other reason than to throw people off by hitting them with 1 point of armor damage, even when they're stood somewhere they thought to be safe. All of these are done with armor equipped. So if you're playing with no armor, get wrecked, scrub. I don't think people see Cache as a large map. I never have, but it is actually one of the largest, at least in terms of surface area, probably thanks to the large swathes of land around T-spawn. But as you can see from this, because of the relatively centrally placed sites, you may be surprised by just how far the bomb's blast can reach. It's only really T-spawn that's completely safe from the whole thing, and given how open that part of the map is, it doesn't give you many places to hide. Let's go through plants from all the corners of the bomb sites and see where's safe, and where isn't. This corner of A isn't too far from where the bomb is normally planted. Obviously if it's planted here then you don't exactly want to be in long A when it goes off. But if you're trying to save your weapon, it may be your safest bet if you don't want to be shot by a camping enemy. Just know that you'll sustain up to 42 points of blast damage if stood in this corner here. In this corner it drops to just 18. The closest survivable corner is this one, just next to the painted wall in warehouse, but you'll sustain a painful 87 points of damage. So we get it, it's not smart to hide on this side of the map with the bomb planted near this side of the map. What about the other corner closest to CT spawn? The lethal radius extends out as far as this corner by the truck, and this corner just here, which is probably to be expected. But beyond that, damage quickly drops off. You only sustain 77 points of damage on the opposite side to the lethal truck spot, and by the bottom of the ramp the damage has dropped to 41 in the near corner and 27 in the other. In CT spawn, it's probably best you don't camp the near corner to the site, since that can still deal 79 points of damage. Standing in the other drops it down to just 12. Just outside CT spawn, you're talking just 3 points of damage in this corner, though nowhere in this courtyard is fully safe. You'll still take a point of armor damage, even when stood right out by the long grass. I talked about this in my Mirage video, but I'll say it again. The bomb's blast zone is bugged. Instead of being a proper sphere, it's more like a cube, where the far corners will still inflict 1 point of armor damage for a significant distance. To show how broken this is, you'd imagine that CT halls would inflict significantly more damage than outside CT spawn would, but this isn't the case. In fact, although this room at the end is called Hell, it's actually totally safe from a bomb blast from A. The near corner at the foot of rafters will deal just 4 points of damage, and mid connectors near side will inflict 32. So yeah, reaching CT halls doesn't guarantee your survival, not by a long shot, but make it to Hell and you should survive. And the last place to consider is if you plant the bomb at the corner closest to forklift. Clearly, this is the best place to plant if you want to piss everybody off by dealing more blast damage than expected, since it will extend across the map as far as possible. For the dozens of never nudes out there, I'll talk about cutoffs here. If you stood this side of the line, you're safe, and stand the other side of the line and you'll take at least 1 point of armor damage. Most of garage and that dumpster courtyard is in that annoying zone that will dink your armor but not your health, so be sure to get further away than here to preserve a perfect 100 points of armor for the next round. Remember, at diagonal angles like this, you'd think that running straight away from the bomb would clear the blast zone fastest, but actually you're better off either running straight towards T-spawn or towards B corridors instead, and that's all due to that weird rounding error that I've mentioned several times now. Even Checkers isn't safe from an A plant. Near side will deal a few points of damage, but by the time you step across to the far side, you'll be completely safe. You would think you'd be safe in vents, wouldn't you? But even in the far corner, a bomb blaster A will still deal up to 1 point of damage, perhaps due to its raised height. Whilst making this video, I had to ask myself, how much help is this to anyone? And the answer to that is, not a lot. It's cool to know how far away the bomb's blast can reach, but the chances of finding yourself in this situation, with this exact bomb plant, with armor equipped, is pretty low. Who has time to remember all these figures? It's not like you've even bothered remembering all those grenade lineups you promised yourself you were going to practice. But then I remember, this video's entertainment for some weird people. It's cool to know just how far the bomb's blast can reach across the map, which is why I'm so into the cutoffs. But just in case you were wondering how much damage you'd sustain if stood closer to a worst case bomb plant, here are the figures for mid. You'll take about 70 damage at the bottom of ramp. This will drop to about 50 by the time you clear the box at the bottom. Reach the far side and you'll be down to single digits of damage. Over here, at the other end of middle, your damage is more than halved in the distance between the back of cubby and the main middle courtyard. And then it drops to single digits by the time you reach the shed on the other side. It drops quickly. Come to think of it, I should have drawn rings along the ground to represent the distances for 100 damage, 50, 10, and I've already done 0, but it takes so much time for this kind of video already, and there's no easy shortcut, what with how unreliable the damage sustained is, thanks to the height differences and the fact that the explosion isn't a perfect sphere. So maybe for next time. And here are the figures for A main. This corner here is surprisingly survivable, and if you want to sustain less damage than that, you'll have to reach the stairs beneath boost. So that's Bombsite A covered. Now on to B. For the sake of covering all possible spots, planting in this far corner will inflict at least 59 points of damage to players stood in Sunroom, but probably more. And just be warned that there is no point in standing on this burning rubbish bin, firstly because it will bring you closer to the height of the bomb site, and secondly because it will deal damage to you itself. Just don't stand in this courtyard if you've planted the bomb at B in this particular corner. It's just common sense, guys. You'd be just as well off standing in this corner of the B site, which would deal 62 damage in this situation. Moving the bomb over to this corner will allow the blast to reach as far into T-spawn as is humanly possible. People stood in this lovely grassy corner will take 20 damage, and the cutoff is about 2/3 the way along this massive dumpster just here. Anywhere beyond here is totally safe from a bomb planted at B, regardless of where it is. To show how broken the bomb's blast radius is, it will deal 1 damage in this corner. Then we'll still chip a point of armor damage off as far away as the front of this truck way over here. Valve, please fix. A bomb planted here will damage anybody stood pretty much anywhere in middle, though the back of cubby seems safe. Incredibly, you'll still sustain a point or so of damage from under boost, but the moment you reach the entrance into the large A main room, you're safe. It will deal up to 34 points of damage to people stood in garage, though most spots inside will be a lot lower. It is interesting that it's possible to survive in checkers, even in a worst case bomb plant like this. It's still not desirable, mind. A player stood at the mouth of the vent will sustain up to 92 points of damage, and anywhere in this part of Long Haul is out of the question. And the last bomb spot is this corner here, which will get players stood around the CT spawn part of the map. The bomb's blast will reach about half the way up the ramp to A, and then will suddenly drop to 0. And it's pretty much the same situation over by truck. The far half of CT spawn is completely safe from a B site plant, but you'll start to take armor damage on the near half, and this will go up to about 35 points of damage just here on the red car. So, if you have 100 health and want to remain as close to the bomb site as you can, you have 2 really dangerous options to consider. Being stood in this corner of hell will inflict up to 98 points of damage, and this corner of checkers up to 99. Camp here at your own risk. In conclusion, Cash's bomb blasts can reach most parts of the map, and parts that are safe, like T-spawn, are dangerously open. If the bomb's planted, and you've forgotten where the enemies are, as well as which site the bomb's planted at, there's only one real solution. One safe place. In the tyres, just here. Make the most of it.